Hi guys, my name is Ozymandias from Alpha Bootis, and you are listening to Brutally Delicious.
Sweet. Well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time.
It's a pleasure.
What's it like up in Montreal? You got that heat wave as well, or no?
Yesterday was terrible. Today it's looking to get us terrible. Funny enough, it's not the worst heat wave we've had so far. We had one like early June. That was like above 30 Celsius for 4 days. That was crazy. Oh. But yeah, we're gonna get storms, I think, in a couple of days, and it's all gonna fall out.
Yeah, probably same here. Well, cool. Anyway, let's talk about Alpha Bootis here.
Yeah,
I've had a chance to listen to, and I'm hoping I don't butcher it, Ozymandias.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I love I'm a big fan of mixing genres and doing all that kind of stuff, and I absolutely love how you guys put that together. How did it come about? Is it something that you planned on, or is it just something that happened, or?
Okay, so the band in general was just a series of happy accidents, but that song in particular was actually one of the first things we wrote when we started the band, because this album we're releasing now is kind of a remake of our first EP that came out 4 years ago, because 4 years ago, Alpha Bootis was just two guys making synthwave on computers. No guitars, no drums, no saxophone, nothing. So we wrote that EP, we released it, got asked to play a show like 3 months after, and we're like, yeah, we'll do a show. We'll figure out how to do a show. So
you didn't have a band though, did you?
No, it was just two guys, and we're like, how? Like none of us even plays keyboards in the two main guys. So we were like, how we're gonna do this? So I called up a drummer, called up a friend of mine to play keyboards, and that's kind of how the ball got rolling. So Ozymandias was written like 5 years ago as a tribute to Blade Runner and a tribute to our love of like synthwave artists like Carpenter Brut, Perturbator, and Ghost. And now playing it live, we added the guitars and we added the saxophone later, and it became that kind of wild genre melting pot that you've heard. But that's been the same for like most of the songs we've written for that EP. Like we all, reworked them for the new album in a much more progressive rock vibe, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Did you do you plan on putting any vocals on any of this, or is it all going to stay instrumental?
So for the band, we're planning on having vocals again, because the guy who come to my internet is acting up.
I can edit it if we can get it back. Yeah, there we go.
The key. Oh, okay. So yeah, the vocals are going to come back on the next album. It just the first and we didn't want to add vocals to these tracks because they kind of felt them, but off as well. So we're gonna, if you come see us at a show, there's sure.
I'm sure you've been asked this, and this already may be in the works, but this is music that I could definitely see as soundtrack to movies and TV, right? It's perfect.
Yeah. It's for now we're kind of writing our own movie and making the soundtrack for it.
Oh, you are?
Well, not a movie, but it's like we're not going to make a movie, but we're singing little stories with the songs. And for the next album, we've got like a full straight up novel in the works to make like a soundtrack for a novel. But yeah, if at some point I'm going to try to break black box that is TV licensing. because I feel some of our music definitely fits that bill, especially if there's any science fiction or fantasy elements.
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to Ecumenopolis, or however you pronounce it, and that's the first thing I was thinking of. I mean, this is like the perfect bed for a big screen kind of movie.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and it's kind of fitting because we were thinking about movies like Blade Runner 2049 and Mad Max Fury Road when we produced that song. That was the kind of soundscape I was going for. So yeah, it's definitely, and funny enough, most of the songs on our first full-length album, Space Vikings and Other Stories, were written as the soundtrack for an indie video game. And then the video game project folded, and we just took the songs, put vocals on them, and released them as Alpha Bootis.
Nice. I got to go back for a second. You said when you were putting the band together, or you were asked to play live, you didn't know how to play synths. How does a synth pop band or synth wave band not know how to play synths?
Okay, so the thing is, I started Alpha Bootis with a friend of mine who had written a couple of songs. One of them was called Jump to Alpha Bootis, and that's where we got the name. And I was dabbling in electronic music production using Ableton Live because I had a bout of very intense tendonitis in both arms. So I had to stop playing guitar for almost a year.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make music no matter what. So I started doing that, but I never really learned how to play keyboards. I played piano a bit as a kid, and with tendonitis, I couldn't practice that.
Right.
So I just did everything, with my mouse and my computer.
Point and click.
And so we put out the EP 3 days after somebody asks us to play a show. That's 3 months away. And so I'm just, okay, I need someone who's able to play these parts that were not really thought of as being playable.
Right.
Especially like in Ecumenopolis, there's this really fast arpeggio, like that's like really, really, really fast. No way I could pull that off. And so I called up my childhood friend, Harakoa, who's now the lead singer and keyboard player of the band. And he's a classically trained pianist and classically trained singer. So I just, gave him the score, and he was like, okay, I can do that.
Right.
So when I say it's a series of happy accidents, it's because none of this was planned in advance.
Right.
Now we know where we're going, but the first 3 years were just, okay, I guess we'll do this now. And somebody offered a gig, and okay, we'll do another gig. And
Right. When you guys are writing, are you guys all writing together, or is it still you on Ableton and then working it out?
So there's two of us that write the music, still the two original guys, and the singer and me write the lyrics. So we mostly work in Guitar Pro, and we sketch out the full songs, and then I'll bring them in Ableton, do the sound design, and then the drummer will change his parts a bit. The bass player will adapt some things, especially because sometimes we do stuff with a synth bass that really doesn't translate well to playing on a real bass. Right. Especially those like electronic that are like super hard to play. So yeah, it's mostly just me and Frak, the other founding member. We write all the songs. And then we have two friends who are, one's a comic book writer and the other is a screenwriter. And we work with them to shape the stories around the songs. Because I've been playing D&D a lot, so I know how to tell a story, kinda. Right. I do improv as well, but I'm not a proper, screenwriter or a comic book writer. So we bring in some professionals.
So that's good. But is that the goal, though? Is that the vision? It's going to be like a full package, like a multimedia sort of thing?
Yeah.
It seems like you're looking to do, saying comic books and video games and.
Yeah. My idea is to make it like a whole, Alpha Bootis cinematic universe type thing. But right now I didn't want to go down the comic book route or the animated show route yet, because those are really expensive and time consuming. And I wanted to be able to get the stories out there in formats that are, available to us to make now. So We're focusing mostly on, it's going to be audiobooks and short stories. And that way we're going to be able to have the full package on Spotify, where you're going to be able to listen to the album, and there's going to be a version of the album where we tell you the stories between the songs with, some sound design, as if it was like a radio theater kind of thing. But yeah, at some point down the line, if we get the budget for it at some point, a video game, a role-playing game, probably even some interactive, art installations or something. Yeah, it's what I like about science fiction is that it's really easy to work with multiple different artists and multiple different medias. And it's just not, music and a visual.
Right. Do you guys, with that all being said then, are you writing like with the stage in mind, how this is all going to come across on stage, or are you going to try and adapt it later on down the road?
I used to write mostly for the album, but right now the album we're releasing was written specifically with the stage in mind. Like, well, not written, but produced, because we wrote these songs 4 years ago, and now so the songs, as you heard, like Ecumenopolis, as you heard it, is pretty much how we play it live. The only difference being that, when there's two guitars playing at the same time, only one of those is going to get played live, because I'm only one of me. But we use, we've never been, we never hid the fact that we use backing tracks. We play to a click. And so we can bring those extra layers in the live show. Sometimes there's going to be 12 layers of vocals to do that Blind Guardian sound. Sure. And we try to bring that live as well. One day I'm going to hire a backup singer, when I'm rich and famous. But yeah, I do say, though, I always think about how is that song going to fit into the album, and how is it going to fit into a set list. And sometimes, we write a 9-minute epic, and I know we're not going to be able to pull that off live because it's just never going to fit in any set list. So I do kind of a radio edit that's, 4 minutes that we can play live.
What about what about theatrics?
I try to balance.
What about theatrics? Are you thinking about them too?
Theatrics, it's been I haven't thought about that much in the past year, because we played a show in September to 40 people, which was a sold out audience, because that was the room capacity. And we rehearsed 2 months for that show, but we haven't been the 5 of us in a room together since then. But we've got a show coming up, and I usually, try to have a very entertaining presentation for the songs. And live, I wear this, I got a cape that's if you know the comic book Harlock, it's so it's like a space corsair type thing. And I bought, one of my friends made a cosplay of the character, and I just bought it off. And so I have that space corsair look. The singer looks like he's from Top Gun or whatever. And so we try to bring it with our, we're playing on very small stages right now, so there's not a lot of room to maneuver around the keyboard and all that stuff. But we do try to do it. At some point, I want to have, projections so we can show the visuals that go with the songs. But it's really hard to make that work in clubs, because they don't have that equipment usually there.
So shows are opening up there now? You guys are able to play, or?
Yeah, right now they're being booked for the fall. The big summer festivals are happening, but instead of 25,000 people, there's going to be 3,000. The good thing here is that vaccination started slow because we just didn't have vaccines. But now it's going really fast, and contrary, what I see in the US that's happening is that people don't really care about getting vaccinated. So they have trouble getting people to go to the clinic. Here, we're at 60%, I think. No, 75% of the people have had their first shot, and the second doses are climbing 2% a day. So it's really crazy how fast it's going. And people want to get vaccinated because
this is how we go back to normal.
Right.
Here.
It's the right thing to do. Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to get political, but I 100% agree. We've hit that like 60-something% mark. And I don't know that we're going to get very many more because there's a certain population that are not going to do it for whatever reason.
So yeah, shows are definitely opening up. We're lucky to have a booker we've worked with in the past just offered us a gig. I can talk to the specifics because it's not announced yet.
Sure.
But we're going to be playing near Halloween, so that's cool. We're going to ask people to dress up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I've been to 2 shows as a fan recently, both contemporary music shows in churches because those are really big, and contemporary music usually draws 100 people. So 100 people in a church doesn't look like much.
Right.
Especially in Montreal, we have these huge cathedrals, Catholic cathedrals that nobody uses anymore.
Right. But they sound great though, right?
Oh yeah. One of the shows was they were playing the bells of the church that had been taken down from the bell tower for construction. So they had like this, 12-foot bell that it would just whack with a hammer. Yeah. And you would hear it buzz in your ears. It was amazing.
Great. And it's live music too. Plus, I just like the way the acoustics sound in those old churches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar, but years ago, maybe in the 80s, there was a band called the Cowboy Junkies.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they did I think it was the Trinity Sessions. They found this old cathedral somewhere in like New England, hung an omnidirectional microphone from the ceiling and recorded the whole damn record. And it's unbelievable.
Oh yeah,
they took the time. They took the time to place themselves in the correct spot, by trial and error, and then just did it like one take with the room, and it sounds so great.
There's a legendary Quebec band called Offenbach. They're kind of like, they sound like Deep Purple, basically. Mm-hmm. And they did a full-on mass at the Oratorium, which is a big church on the mountain here in Montreal. Mm-hmm. And they did like an electric mass. And it sounds, you've got the organ and the rock band, and they're, talking about death and
right
between the songs, but that was like in the 80s. So yeah, I love the acoustics of the church, and that's the only reason I still go to like religious concerts sometimes, even though I don't believe any of it. It's just, it sounds so good.
And now it's live music, and any kind of live music. I'll go see banjo players right now.
Yeah.
Anything live at this point.
Yeah, like to quote Bill O'Reilly, we're doing it live.
Yeah. What do you guys have playing now? So you're writing for the next record already?
Well, we've kind of finished writing it. The next record was supposed to be this record, but the pandemic made recording really a pain. And we were, in 2019, we added a new bass player and a saxophone player to our lineup. So we were the point of 2020 was like, let's make an album together and get you guys used to working with the band. And that became really hard with the pandemic. So we were, okay, let's figure out something that we can do. Let's take these songs that we rehearsed for the live show and record them. So yeah, the next album is written pretty much in its entirety. Right now we're writing the stories that go along with it. Because we have if it was only an album, we'd have the general storyline. Character A does this and then meets character B and then, go on adventures. But we're fleshing out the universe and the story, and that's been great, diving deep into our songs and figuring out how each bit of lyric could be an idea for a story.
Right.
And then our goal is to apply for government funding here. We have lots of arts grant, and that will allow us to, make the album to the scale we want to make it.
Right. That'd be cool.
So yeah, that's the plan right now. Also starting to rehearse for the live show, because I haven't played much. I've played guitar. I've rehearsed. I've recorded stuff, but I wasn't in a room with a band since September last year.
Yeah, it's crazy. What's it going to be like to finally get out on the stage again with the band? Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the best night of the year. And also because so many of our fans either were friends before they were fans or became friends after, being fans, because they come to like a handful of shows and them and you start talking to them. And so seeing all of these beautiful, nerdy people in the same room is going to be awesome.
Right.
It's going to be a big party.
Plus, with costumes, it's a fun environment. It'll be just a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and last year, we basically canceled Halloween. So it's going to be like, the first Halloween, and then there's going to be the first Christmas in 2 years.
On steroids, right? Everything's going to be maxed.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking forward to all of it.
That's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be the Roaring 20s for sure.
You know what? I think you're 100% right. I haven't heard anybody say that, but you're right. It's gonna be the Roaring 20s. I'm gonna use that if you don't mind. That's great.
Oh, go ahead. It's not mine.
I like that. But that's all I've got. I don't know. Did I miss anything you want to cover?
No. Well, we got an album, Jump to Alpha Bootis, coming out in August. 2 singles are out now. Jump to Alpha Bootis and Ecumenopolis. There's a single dropping middle of July, so when this air, it might be live or it might not. So yeah, check us out, and we're on all music platforms at Alpha Bootis or Alpha Bootis Band. Come get nerdy with us.
Come get nerdy with us. I like it. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, my friend.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I really do dig that stuff. I love the mishmashing of genres. It's kind of cool.
Thank you. If you want to hear that with vocals, do check the first album, Space
I'll go
Vikings.
back and look at it. Yeah, I'll check it out. I can find it on like Bandcamp or somewhere.
Yeah, Bandcamp, Spotify, all the regular haunts.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll go back and check it out. Be well. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
Cheers, my friend. All right, bye.
Ever wonder what a punch from Elton John feels like?
Or how you'd cope with having turned down the chance to be in Nirvana?
Or what signal Keith Richards gives when he wants you to get the hell out of his hotel room?
Fans of Too Much Effing Perspective don't have to wonder, because they've heard these exact stories and a jillion others on our podcast. I'm Alex Hoffman, former tour manager for Radiohead.
And I'm musician and comedy writer Alan Keller. On the TMEP show, we get guests like Nancy Wilson from Heart, Jeremiah Freites from the Lumineers, and Modern Family's Julie Bowen to tell us things they may have only shared with their therapist, clergy, or a TMZ stringer.
So join us on Too Much Effing Perspective. That's EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.